de tout reprogrammer. On ira, on saura sauver notre existence, se donner une chance de tout effacer. On ira, on saura sauver notre existence pour refaire un monde sans danger. Comme Lyoko, tout reprogrammer. Comme Lyoko.
Welcome to Return to the Past, a Code Lyoko retrospective. We are the internet's premier Code Lyoko podcast because we are the first, the only, and the best. I'm David, and I believe that marriage is between one ghost and one horse.
I'm Mary, and I'm relatable to the teens.
I'm Ben, and I'm banned from entering 17 states.
Would you say that you have the death sentence in 17 states?
No, just banned.
I was making a Star Wars joke, but I forgot how that went halfway through.
No law can kill me.
This is very, very true. You are above the law.
I am
the law!
You're the one with the gavel on his chest. Neither David nor I can claim that honor.
That's correct.
Okay, I wanted a gavel.
You want a gavel?
Have you seen that one blog on Tumblr run by a British person who was very, very passionate about not showing gavels in British courtrooms on TV?
Yes, I have.
What?
Oh,
Yeah.
you tell the story, Mary.
There's this blog, I don't remember the title, but gavels have never been used in British courts, and this person is dedicated to finding every instance in British television where they show up and pointing out how very wrong it is.
Oh, how about that? That's why. That's like my this person, whoever this is like my British counterpart.
I was just thinking that this is exactly the kind of thing you would do.
It is.
You know what else you would do? You
What else would I
would
do?
make 8 episodes of a Code Lyoko podcast, which, as of now, we have done. Hooray!
8 whole episodes. Woo!
8 whole episodes.
That's one
Welcome-
more than 7. That's as many websites as there were in 1995.
There you go.
There we go. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in again. And a huge welcome to our new listeners, especially if you got to us by clicking a link retweeted by either Bob Chipman, a.k.a. Movie Bob, or Linkara, a.k.a. Linkara. I don't actually know his given name.
His name is Lewis Lovehog.
All right, Louis Lovehog. That is his name. And a big thank you to David for getting these illustrious personalities to give us a little shout out. We really appreciate it. We remember last week when we were proud to have 400 downloads. We've doubled that now. And we've got
And it's all thanks to me. Yeah.
Yes, it is all thanks to David, in fact. And so glad to have you here. We also had our first review, which was great, on iTunes. 5-star
And remember,
review.
listeners, you can do that too. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Say no more, say no more. Nudge is as good as a wink to a blind bat.
Huh.
Yes. And I'd also like to apologize now that you've all gotten here and are expecting great things for us for the lateness of this episode. Our original plan was actually Ben was visiting me this weekend, and we were going to record, but we found it a bit difficult to do so, and shenanigans happened.
Shenanigans, including me having a 5-hour layover at an airport because my flight was canceled, and then having to fly into an airport an hour and a half from where I actually live. So needless to say, I have been without sleep for a significant time, and during our previously scheduled recording window, I was in fact unconscious. So my apologies to you, dear listeners, for whatever airline messed up our lives today. It shall remain nameless because, to be perfectly honest, it's irrelevant which airline it was. It could be any of them because they all suck equally.
Exactly.
So welcome to our airline industry podcast.
I know, right? Oh man,
yeah.
we guys, we have too many podcasts, I think.
I make that joke literally every episode, and it is my secret goal to make that joke in a different way for the entirety of our podcast.
That is an excellent idea.
But what would our friends at 20th Century Fox think about that?
They'd probably make a show of it and air it.
Probably. Now,
Dun,
And
dun,
you do that every episode. So we're really just running through our own internal memes here.
Yes, we are. I'm trying to think. Should we launch right into the episode, or we also have some Lyoko news to share?
Well,
And
I have to promote my new tweeter, as I believe it's called. I have a tweeter now, you guys.
yes, you do.
A real life tweeter. It's at David RTTP. That's not the official Twitter for our podcast. It's just mine. But as I've said repeatedly, my self-esteem depends on validation from strangers. So please follow me, dear listeners.
He's doing a very good job. 3 cheers for David.
Woo! David, the reigning social media mogul of our podcast.
Exactly. I make most of the posts on the official Twitter, but David has done a better job than I have.
Well, not all of my posts are related to Code Lyoko. Many of them are political outrage. Others are observations about The Incredibles. So
yes, this is
All important.
Yes,
important
you've
things.
mastered Twitter faster than most corporations have.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Yes. And the two things I have are we have some bits of Lyoko news, and which is an astounding thing in 2017. And also, I just realized I haven't checked our email in a while.
Oh. Well, maybe we have
I have
emails.
our email open right at this moment.
And we have quite a few of them. So what should we go with first?
Why don't you talk about the Lyoko news, Mary?
Oh, well, this is pretty cool. So I don't think we've talked about this here yet, but, the factory that you've been seeing in the last 7-8 episodes, did you know it's based on a real place?
Ooh.
Is that kind of like how the Flying Dutchman's treasure map is based on a real treasure map?
Yes! Except this is...
Plastic!
What? I never heard plastic. I always heard nothing.
Well, the plastic one is later in the episode.
I think, yeah.
There's a little plastic treasure chest with plastic doubloons. Plastic, yeah, that's what it
Yes.
was.
I always misheard it as nothing.
Oh.
And I thought that was funnier than plastic.
Well, it's funnier. It's
Maybe
funny either
you're
way.
from the universe where they spell Berenstein Bears with an E.
Yes.
You know what? I can embrace that.
Well, what happened is there used to be a Renault car factory on Ile Seguin, which I'm almost certainly mangling. It is an island near Paris, France. Renault is a brand of car that's really only popular in Europe. You'll be hard-pressed to find them in the U.S. if you're listening from there. And it closed. I believe it was closed at the time Code Lyoko was in production. It was torn down either shortly before or shortly after. I don't exactly remember. Either way, it was the inspiration for the factory, and they look remarkably similar, except that the factory in the show doesn't have the words Renault printed on it. But recently, the island was redeveloped into a concert hall called La Scène Musicale, which just opened a few days ago on April 21st. It had its grand opening, and guys, you have got to see this place. I'm going to put a link to some pictures of it in the podcast and on Twitter. It's actually already on our Twitter, and it's so beautiful. Like, this is the perfect place to have a concert. I'm just floored at how gorgeous it is.
So that will be the place where the Foxtrot Fanatics play their first major gig.
Absolutely.
I am sure.
With their hit single "Mystery Girl" from Another World.
From another
World is in parentheses.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Or Alita will have her first EDM concert here. Apparently they are going to have EDM concerts there, which is probably going to be
that's
nuts.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure Xana would love that. He seems like an
That's a
EDM kind of guy.
spoiler.
Yeah, oh, well, not terribly spoilery. But, as Ben pointed out here, we should note that it is a collaboration between a French architect and a Japanese architect. So, you know.
Weeaboo King Thomas Romaine would be pleased.
He would be exceptionally pleased. Now, let's look through the mailbox. We've gotten a few more emails. Our friend who recommended to us...
The Games of Moriarty, right?
The Games of Moriarty has, let me see. They say, holy shnikes, y'all actually read my email.
We sure do. We read every email.
And I, too, am a big fan of Tommy Boy.
Well, apparently the Games of Moriarty is 28 chapters long, but they've requested that we read and review the first chapter. I think we can do that by next episode.
Was my Tommy Boy joke a little too obscure for the room there?
I was about to say I didn't really understand it.
Oh, that's where the phrase "holy shnikey" comes from.
Oh, I just
really?
heard it around from pop cultural osmosis.
To be honest, that must be why my mother says it all the time.
Oh, there you go.
Tommy Boy.
And
starring the late great Chris Farley, the original voice of Shrek.
What?
Chris Farley was the original voice of Shrek, but then he died halfway through recording, so they brought in Mike Myers to do the job.
How did I never know that?
Well, it's a fairly well-known fact, I think.
Huh. Well, I guess I missed out on that.
But then Mike Myers tried to mimic Chris Farley's voice, and then once they were done, he said, "You know what? I want to do the whole thing again in a Scottish accent." And they let him do it.
And history was born.
Indeed.
History was born. What else was I going to do? They've also recommended Lyoko Decoded, which, in fact, I have seen. I think Ben has seen. That was, we knew the guy who made it, in fact.
What's his name? Reese something?
Reese Davies, yes. That was his name.
Reese Davies. Kind of like Reese Darby.
Reese Darby, a little bit. Or like the actor, John Rhys Davies.
Well, that's John Rhys Davis, not Davies.
Oh.
There are only like 3 names in Wales, so yeah.
So yes, I watched this oh my goodness, it must have been 9 years ago now. But yes, I'm aware of the documentary's sad face. Oh man, but what exists of it is amazing, and I'd love to give it another look someday.
It has such a cool remix of the Lyoko theme song of "A World Without Danger," or "Un Monde Sans Danger," if you will.
Yes, and I'm still floored, I guess, that he got Jodie Forrest. So to basically,
he interviews Sissy in the documentary. That's right.
He did. It was great. Oh man, I think it might still be on YouTube. So yes, guys, if you ever want to have great time, want to have a look into the production process of Code Lyoko. 3 fans from the British Isles took a sort of pilgrimage to France. They hung out with the cast and crew. They filmed it all. Rumor has it they even got their voices into the background of an episode.
Did they really?
That's what I remember hearing.
Was it Cold War?
I think it was a season 3 episode. It might have been The Secret.
Oh, okay.
I just want to say I was so jealous of that Sissy interview. I wish I could pretend on that level.
I know, right? That was awesome. Oh, man. See, now we're going to have to rewatch it. Another thing, which I'm unfortunately going to have to watch after this, is the sweet thing that happened. In fact, it was April 2nd of this month. What happened was there was a young woman named Jasmine who fell off an 8-story building back in December. It seems she was a Code Lyoko fan, and her mother got in touch with Matt Geske, the English VA of Odd, to let her know what was going on, and the VAs got together and recorded a get well message for her in the characters' voices.
And that is just absolutely fantastic.
Get well soon. Get well soon, Code Lyoko fan.
Thank you to the voice actors for doing this wonderful thing for Jasmine, and Jasmine, we hope you recover soon.
Oh, Jasmine, of course. I wasn't sure if you said her name or not. Get well soon, Jasmine. I can't do my Nicholas voice as well anymore. Sorry about that.
Well, that's okay. I'm sure she appreciates it, and like I said, I hope she's doing well. And what else do we have? Our anonymous friend from earlier who asked us the question before. Apparently, there is another Code Lyoko Abridged series that got a little farther than the one I was in, called Dumb Lyoko, which they've asked us to check out. It does look really interesting. Let's talk about End of Take.
Yeah, okay.
We should absolutely talk about End of Take.
We should definitely talk about End of Take, which is, well, it was, as we said last time, it certainly was a humdinger.
I hate this episode. This is the first episode that I am comfortable in saying in such language. I hated watching this episode.
I'm very surprised. I thought it was perfectly average.
I found more enjoyment out of it than I had the last few times I'd seen it, but it was still, like, I just didn't, nothing about it really clicked with me, and it was like, I had to consciously suspend my disbelief every second.
It's mediocre. It's a mediocre episode, but I wouldn't say that I hate it.
Mediocre sounds good.
It's vintage Lyoko.
Yeah, a little bit. I think the very fact that it is Code Lyoko is having me like it a little more than if it were any other show, literally. I think the first few seconds are probably the one part I truly hate.
Why? What's wrong with the Lyoko Warriors MST3King and a terrible alien knockoff?
Well, I think it's a terrible alien knockoff. Just because, one, it is a terrible alien knockoff, although we do get to see a gun being shot, so
An
that's
actual,
interesting.
real gun on daytime Cartoon Network, you guys.
Another difference, French people would have...
Gun.
I really feel like French people wouldn't really stop and, prevent children from seeing that, whereas we in the United States, I mean, you'll recall that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dub airing at about the same time,
Yeah.
four kids just erased the guns, and so you have these people in suits standing around holding their hands out, holding nothing.
Exactly.
Cartoon guns, too dangerous for TV. Real guns everywhere, A-OK. Hashtag Murica. These four ridiculous children are watching a terrible movie that's obviously supposed to be alien, except instead of a strong female protagonist, it has a mewling woman who's on her back, crying and whimpering, until an obvious caricature of Bruce Willis appears. Because, as we've said, Code Lyoko loves Bruce Willis.
That was probably my favorite part of this, and my least favorite was, how do you get Sigourney Weaver that wrong?
Well, she didn't look like Sigourney Weaver, she was just some lady.
Well, that's true. I mean, she had the red hair.
Yeah.
Which is as close to Sigourney Weaver as this woman gets beyond being threatened by the alien from Alien. Also, is it just me, or is this movie almost exactly like the one he's about to that James Finson is about to shoot?
I got the impression that it was a sequel. That the one he's shooting now is a sequel.
I did not consider that.
That's what I was thinking just now, but then he presents the alien as though it's something new, even though they kinda look exactly the same.
Well,
that's kind of the joke too.
If you've seen the Alien movies, every movie introduces some new iteration of the alien that's slightly different from the one that came before.
Oh, David, our resident alien movie franchise expert.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Like, the first one has like the basic xenomorph, then the aliens plural has the queen. Alien 3 has the one that's half dog. Alien 4 or Alien Resurrection has the one that's half human, and then it just gets sillier after that.
Yeah, I want to state right here for the record, I have essentially never seen any of the Alien or Predator movies or whatever. I did technically see one once, but I remember nothing about it, so it doesn't really count. So if there is anything in this episode that is any kind of genuine, like, homage, I have no idea. I don't know anything about how to relate what goes... Okay, good.
Other than those things I just said, it's not.
Well, like I said, David, you can educate us alien minds and hearts and bodies.
There's a new Alien movie coming out this summer. It's called Alien Covenant.
That is what I've heard.
And I am
Sigourney
going to
Weaver
watch
in that
it.
one?
No.
Oh.
No, it's actually a prequel to the first Alien. It takes place between Prometheus and the first Alien.
Oh, neat. So it's like an interquel.
Yes.
Wait, it has a lot of quells. So the reason we're being shown this, and the reason that the Lyoko Warriors are, as we are saying, MST3King this mediocre film, is because the director has come to talk to the school. Ostensibly, as Jean-Pierre says, he is going to be telling the students about the fascinating world of cinema, but really he's just up there to talk about himself.
Here's the thing about James Finson. He's fat, so you know he's American. That's the intention, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But he doesn't look like any specific director.
I was wondering, because it is very obvious, like excessively obvious, that they took particular care to draw James Finson the way they did. I'm pretty sure that almost no other character in the entire series is drawn, well, to be honest, to be drawn to look fat in the way that James Finson is. Except for Jim, but not even, like...
Jim doesn't have a fat face. James Finson has a fat face.
Yes, he has a wider neck, and like a less defined chin, and they took such great care.
Wait, no, that's a terrible joke.
George Lucas has a beard and a huge, massive 1950s pompadour.
That's very true.
And you can't leave those out if you're drawing George Lucas.
I thought he looked a little bit kind of like Quentin Tarantino in the features, but not all the way. He might just be like
Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino's a skinny guy.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I mean the features, not, you know... Anyway, he's either some kind of amalgamation, or they just decided to draw a fat American. I don't know.
Which show did have a Quentin Tarantino XP? Jimmy Neutron.
Oh, jeez.
Remember that?
Is that one director guy? Yeah.
He looks exactly like Quentin Tarantino.
Oh man, I only vaguely remember that.
I think that was a Latter Day episode, and I may not have seen all the way through, because that was when I thought I was too old for cartoons, but I have since grown out of that.
As we very well see. No, I kind of remember that one too. But yes, this guy is very full of himself. Instead of, like I said, instead of telling the children about the fascinating world of cinema, he says, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm here location scouting. By the way, look at that cool factory that's over there.
Might want to shoot a movie there. I hope that doesn't cause any plot complications."
Dun, 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 dun. And you can actually see them pan across the Lyoko warriors' faces as he's making this announcement. And it's like their reactions change as they pan across. Like Yumi looks excited, Odd looks excited, Ulrich looks a little, and then Jeremy's like, well, frick.
Oh no, you guys. Or however he talks. He doesn't talk like that yet, does he?
No, not in this episode.
Not yet. He hasn't gone through his first puberty yet.
His first puberty. I mean, that.
Assuming he has a second puberty. I don't think he goes through it by the time the series ends.
He's just... We love you, Jeremy.
We love you so much. But
you
yes.
big fat cheesehead, you.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
James Finson's next responsibility is to sign pictures of himself and hand them out to students in the cafeteria.
And Code Lyoko is, as almost every other cartoon is, one of the ones where they wear the same outfit all the time. They do change their outfits, in the series, but like only once, and then they wear that new outfit for the rest of the time. But
no.
There's
Finson, one episode. There's one episode where they go back to the old outfit. Remember the lake?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Oh, I forgot about that. But
the lake
anyway,
is one of my favorite season 4 episodes. I can't wait to get to that.
It was, for whatever reason, it was funny to me that James Finson is there, and the picture that he's signing, he's in that same outfit.
Oh my God,
so it's like he's wearing the same outfit from his glamour shot to go around and talk to 12-year-olds.
I never considered that.
Me neither. But let's see what else is going on here. Well, the kids are sort of conversing outside, as they tend to do, all clumped up together.
What about Sissy, though? Sissy, who has a lot of nerve.
Oh, Sissy has a lot of nerve. So Sissy demonstrates here that, A, she is fascinated by the cult of celebrity and really wants to be a part of it, which I find really interesting. And 2, she has absolutely no idea how it works, or what it takes to get there.
She tries to sweet-talk James Finson into giving her a role in his movie.
A lead role.
A lead role, yeah.
This is, by the way, the only episode that I'm aware of where Sissy wants to be an actor. Not that I blame middle schoolers for deciding different things they want to do for their job, because, I barely know what I want to do for my job now. But it is kind of very sudden. She hadn't indicated anything like this before, and she never will again. I'm
not sure whether she wanted to be an actor, or whether, as she said, she wanted to be a big star.
Well, she probably said big star. She is, after all, the star, the diva
of the school. By the way, her old voice is back, so this must have been another earlier dub.
Well, her old new voice is back.
Oh, I forgot to. Yeah, by this time I forgot to notice.
That's A-okay. So what here is next? Oh, next is Ulrich's little faux pas following Sissy's little faux pas.
Oh, Ulrich, honey child, he tried so hard.
But he failed to consider that James Finson is an idiot.
Yeah, so Ulrich goes up to James Finson, and he has a bright idea. He's going to get James Finson to not want to record at the factory. So he goes up to James Finson, and as he's signing the picture, I don't remember what exactly he says, maybe one of you will, but he starts saying all these awful, terrible things about the factory that he thinks are going to turn him off.
What's funny, though? what's funny is that he declines the autographed picture.
Oh,
He,
yes,
like,
he does.
puts
He
his hand up.
does.
Yeah.
He does, which I think might have been the first thing that got Finson's attention. No, first he offers to take James Finson on a tour of the factory, and then he starts saying all the terrible things.
Oh, you're right.
To the point where he even says something like, "Oh, too bad they stored all this uranium here."
But wait. We haven't transitioned properly. Ulrich takes James Finson to the factory to give him a tour of the factory, and the other kids are, like, hiding in the rafters, eavesdropping.
Right, and everything Ulrich does just makes James Finson love the factory more.
He says, "Oh, it's a shame that this place is so old. These ceilings could come down at any minute." And James Finson, this grown man, is here being led by a 12-year-old child. And he has no qualms about being in a building where it's going to fall down. He has no qualms about when Ulrich says that this building is full of uranium, like, oh, great, nuclear waste, that's fantastic.
He just ignores Ulrich. Like, he's just like, yeah, where's this elevator go?
I kind of got the impression that they were trying to make him Kubrick-esque, or Kubrick-esque, if that is your persuasion. Because Stanley Kubrick was very well known for favoring dangerous shoots, as James Finson himself said. But he doesn't have a beard, nor does he have a hat.
Isn't the saying that NASA hired Kubrick to fake the moon landing?
That is a conspiracy theory. Yeah.
Yeah, but his perfectionism was so much that he made them shoot that on the moon.
Oh, I've never heard that, but I love it already.
It is wonderful.
There's a theory that the movie The Shining is full of coded messages where he confesses to having directed the moon landing.
Yeah, no. I think that James Finson is 10 different American directors stuffed into a James Finson suit.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's fair. That's a legitimate statement, I think.
Yes, it absolutely is. Now, what James Finson decides is that Ulrich is going to be a consultant on the set, because that's totally what you do with 12-year-olds. And thus follows a very complicated series of events that all happen within the span of like 30 seconds.
What happens? Ulrich and Sissy go to the factory, and Sissy makes Ulrich carry her stuff for her, right?
Yes, but what leads up to that is Ulrich and James Finson try to get permission from Jean-Pierre for Ulrich to skip school so he can work on the film. He does not get permission, so... Surprise, yeah, because Jean-Pierre Delmas is a responsible man. So Sissy steps in and makes her father grant permission in exchange for Sissy getting a part in the movie.
I don't understand how that works.
I think Jean-Pierre would be happy to have his daughter get a part in the movie.
But Jean-Pierre can't say no to his daughter.
Yeah, no, he can't. No matter how strict no matter how strict and exacting Jean-Pierre can be with other people's children, yeah, he can't say no to Sissy.
I can accept that. I can accept it.
I remember in the Italian novels, he even had, like, a special line in, like, his finances that was miscellaneous expenses, Sissy.
I'm sure that's exactly what happened. So when Ulrich and Sissy arrive at the factory for the movie shoot, they are asked to hand over their cell phones, because James Finson demands that everyone give up their phones so that they can't contact the outside world and leak any information, and he wants them to be completely dedicated to the shoot. And Ulrich and Sissy very visibly, hesitatingly do so.
James Finson is...
an asshole?
Yeah, he is just... He has all these weird requirements, like he wants them all to sleep in tents on the factory floor.
Yeah. They cannot, let's cut off these 12-year-old children from the outside world and make it so they can't even contact their parents. By the way, I'm sure that the writers of the show are aware that you can't really do that. And they're just saying all this for the point of the plot. But man, there are so many laws against this. So many.
And
but they play it for laughs, though. Yes, after this miscellaneous assistant finishes walking them through the sets, he goes, but other than that, it's a lot of fun.
He also
Remember?
says something like, when you're working with James Finson, there are no accidents.
There's never a problem.
Exactly.
But this is an episode of Code Lyoko, so you know there's going to be a problem.
Oh, yes, there is. Oh, yes, there is. By the way, I also want to note that Ulrich and Sissy are going to be housed in the same tent.
I don't know. Now, I don't know enough about France. I wonder if that's such a... I mean, I guess if they have gender-segregated dorms, I just wondered if maybe French cultural norms wouldn't be so appalled at a co-ed children's tent.
Who knows? It's only there for like a second.
But yes, they're in the same tent, and I'm sure Ulrich is very
angry,
unhappy.
Well,
I'm sure Sissy is very happy.
Oh, yes. One thing I did notice, Ulrich slept in his clothes. Sissy did not. But either way, that's coming up in the future. I just wanted to point it out because it stood out a lot to me. James Finson shows off his new alien model, which he makes sure to note squirts disgusting goo, quote.
Hang on, there's another thing I want to note about the alien. When we see it, it is quite literally hanging on a cross.
I was going to say that!
Crucified. And, by the wrist, the little hands are drooping. It is not an accident. It is not meant to be, this is how you hold up a model of a thing and it just happens to look like it's in a T-pose. No. This alien is crucified. James Finson is so proud of this alien that he has made. It is the Messiah.
Oh!
And it squirts slimy threads of goo.
I've always...
Oh my God.
I've always taken notice of the weird, T-pose, but I never, extrapolated that it's a statement about how James Finson feels about his monster. Also, why did James Finson himself make the monster?
He also does the composing, so I guess the idea is that he's nuts. What comparison I drew with him, that he's kind of like the Asylum.
No, I don't think he's like the Asylum. I mean, would Caddick host such a, low-grade Z-list director?
That's fair.
And besides,
if you're going
Ulrich
to talk
likes
to a group
the
of
movie.
12-year-olds.
And completely drop the ball on talking to those 12-year-olds.
Well, I just mean, what director is gonna just drop into it to a middle school, Maybe he's not. Maybe he hasn't won any whatever the French equivalent of Oscars are.
Well, maybe he hasn't won an Oscar.
Oh, I don't think that's the idea. Otherwise, they wouldn't have parodied a well-regarded film. They would have done something really cheesy,
Fair point.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, so this alien that looks just like the alien from Alien, or Predator, or
No,
whatever.
this looks explicitly like the Predalien, which is what you get when an alien facehugger infects a predator, and then the thing that pops out of the predator's chest is the Predalien, and that's what this looks like.
Thank you for clarifying.
Oh, Jesus.
Ulrich says, wow, that monster looks just kind of like from that one film, and he never says it. And James Finson just flips, and he's like, no, all of my ideas are completely original. And he huffs off, and when I say he huffs off, I wish that I could beam into your heads, listeners, the angry walk that he does. He walks away from everybody because he's so upset that someone would dare imply that he copied something, and he's balled his fist and he's marching away, and it just he's swinging his arms in front of his chest and back down.
He walks just like Irving Nicholas did in the last episode.
Yes! Oh my goodness, yes, he does.
There's a GIF, and I think it's of perhaps a well-known GIF, maybe not. I think it's a Vince McMahon of WWF, WWE, whatever wrestling thing he's from. And he's marching into the ring or whatever, and he flings his arms up and kind of flicks his wrist. Look it up, Vince McMahon GIF, listeners, because I think that's the closest thing that I can provide to you, to what James Finson does when he walks away.
I
just wanted to note that.
I'm looking it up right now, and...
I so wish.
Is it this one? Oh, that one. Oh, yes, I've seen that one. I didn't think it was quite like that.
Well, it's not quite like that, but it's
like that
close.
viewed from the back.
Yes.
Oh my God, I didn't even. I was so unsure for such a long time whether that was a real human being or a computer-generated person.
Well, now I have to see it.
Yes,
but I can't see it now.
I'll show you after we get off the call.
Okay.
another important thing that happens here is that Sissy is super eager for her lines, and James Finson just completely screws her over.
So Sissy goes up and says, what's my line? And James Finson says, well, first he says that she doesn't have one, right? And then she persists. So James Finson pulls out a piece of paper, writes something on it, hands it to her, and Sissy opens it, and it just says, "Ah!" because all she's going to do is scream. And then James Finson talks about how she's going to die in horribly gory fashion.
But he says it's gory glory.
Glory, too.
Yeah.
She's going to be the monster's first victim.
And listen, here's a 12-year-old girl, and sure, let's kill this 12-year-old girl in totally gory fashion and make her the first victim. I don't like James Finson.
Me neither.
James Finson is why I hate this episode.
Well, if you told me at age 12 that I was going to be killed by a monster in a movie, and I got to, be in a movie, I would have been okay with that.
You might have been, but Sissy clearly isn't. And I'm not. I just think that he's a jerk.
He's a
fair
jerk.
enough.
He's a jerk doing his jerk bending. Either way, that.
Oh my God, Mary, you have no idea how tempted I am to make a masturbation joke. Are we jerk bending?
Maybe here is not the place. Actually, the place will be in about 10 seconds when Sissy gets squirted on by the disgusting monster.
Another part. Okay, look. I'm just gonna listeners.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna let this out of the bag, and we're gonna air this laundry because it has to be addressed. This episode has a lot of really weird, awkward innuendo. Okay, and we mentioned it kind of when we mentioned the goo shooting. But yes, okay. In fact, in the opening sequence of this episode, when Bruce Willis, in air quotes, Bruce Willis shoots the alien in Finson's previous movie, the screaming, how did David put it? The mewling woman, who is the victim of the alien, gets splattered in the face with this goo, like you're supposed to think it's alien gore, except it's kind of whitish and semi-transparent, and and that's the goo that this new alien shoots. Is the same thing.
You ruined. You're making me hate the episode now. I didn't used to hate it.
Well, I'm sorry.
I never thought of it that way. My mind was too pure.
It's so gross. It makes me hate James Finson even more for including that.
Oh wait! The very fact that Bruce Willis is in the movie also proves that James Finson is not just some hobbyist director, right?
Oh yeah. No,
you're right. Okay, Saved
but
by
he is
Bruce
still a
Willis.
jerk.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's still a jerk. He's still a major colossal jerk. But you can be both. You can be a major Hollywood director and also be a colossal jerk. So yes, that night is when things start to go a little topsy-turvy.
Ulrich needs to contact Jeremy because even though they still use 2003 Nokia brick phones in this era, these are still millennial children, and they still need to be in constant contact with the outside world at all times. So in order to contact Jeremy about the situation, Ulrich goes into the factory.
Basically ranting at Jeremy.
Yeah. Guess what happens? Guess what happens?
Dun, dun, dun.
Sissy follows Ulrich as he's going through. Ulrich can't use the elevator because that would be too conspicuous. So he goes through the always inconsistent hallways through the factory downstairs into the lab, and Sissy follows him. And to be honest, I had completely forgotten this happened. I had no idea that someone discovers the lab as early as episode 8.
Same here.
But Sissy comes into the lab and she says, well, what kind of weird place is this?
This is not the first time that someone has discovered the lab.
Well, it's the first that we have seen.
That's very
true. It's also not the first time that Sissy has discovered the lab.
But it is that we have seen.
Ooh. The point is, Ulrich, I don't even remember what he tries to do to get her out, because very, very soon, the alien shows up that Xana has possessed. Hooray!
Because of course he did. What else is Xana gonna possess in this damn episode? But the distinctly noted animatronic gross alien.
Starts drooling. He's hanging on the ceiling and he's dripping from above.
As we have mentioned. And so now Sissy and Ulrich need to go on the run. And this is one of the more the episodes that's more action-packed in the real world. And not in an awkward way, like Yumi and Yumi's fight in the last episode. This one is like, it's pretty well done. And also it has what I like to consider elevator acrobatics, which are always a lot of fun to watch.
You know, the elevator, it gets stuck in this episode, and for a TV series where the elevator features in, I am almost certain, every single episode. The elevator may as well be a character in this dang show. How often does the elevator get stuck?
Twice? I think it also happens in the trap.
Yeah, I know this isn't the only time, but it happens very infrequently, which is somewhat surprising.
Question. What do you think would happen if James Finson saw his alien come to life? Would he think that his creative prowess was so great that it imbued his plastic monster with life?
He'd probably go unconscious from having an orgasm too hard.
Isn't that how that one Renaissance painter died?
I don't know. I'm going to very carefully Google that after we record this.
I'm considering just slapping an explicit on this episode in particular, because there's really no way around this.
It's not explicit. We're being discreet, I think.
We'll see how it shakes out. Am I being too prudish?
Nah.
Well, I don't know what iTunes rules are.
Me neither. I'll have to examine it. From what I understand, they're a bit vague because they were designed to cover music, not.
Oh well, I mean,
shows.
lots of music is much more explicit than us.
Oh well, that's a good point. So yes, they're being chased all over the elevator. It's pretty cool. I think Jeremy is sort of clued into the fact that Ulrich needs help, and the troops get rallied and head to the factory. And then James Finson discovers the monster is missing, because it's the next morning. We've gone through an entire day-night cycle here.
And boy, oh boy, is he mad!
Also, he has a chair with his name on it. Just want to...
Of course he does.
Point that out. But,
he is... directors do have those, don't they?
Yeah, that's a very typically director thing to do.
Yeah, that's why I don't consider it like another sign of his ego, because it is pretty typical.
What if he has a tattoo on his lower back of him French kissing himself?
Canon.
Head canon accepted? Can I get a head canon accepted?
Head canon accepted.
Yes.
Bleep, I never have to think about it again.
You're still thinking about it, aren't you?
No, actually no. I have completely blocked it out of my mind. What are you even talking about?
I'm thinking about it.
Well, good for you, David.
That's your personal thing that you need to work out.
Yes, that sounds like a personal problem. Now what are Ulrich and Sissy up to? Oh, they're getting splatted against a wall.
Yeah, the alien sort of, think of it kind of like Spider-Man, where his web binds people to the wall, except instead of web, it's that same semi-whitish, semi-greenish, translucent, gross stuff that it shoots.
But the alien in Alien, the Xenomorph, does do that, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's totally fine. This is a direct reference.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed is Sissy throughout this is just she's freaking out. She's just gibbering to herself.
Wait, when you think about it, how is Spider-Man's web any less gross than the James Finson monster? You know? It's sticky white stuff.
It's sticky, okay, but it doesn't... It's it's a cord, right? Yeah. So it doesn't splatter.
Yeah, no, it's like a...
There are subtle differences, okay.
It's white, sticky stuff released in large quantities by a teenage boy. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but there is quite clearly a difference here than Spider-Man's web, okay?
There is.
That's pretty
obvious. I know.
Anyway, so the alien licks Sissy.
Yeah, that's weird.
Have I told you how much I hate this episode? Because I hate this episode. You know that episode of SpongeBob,
visibly,
where Patrick is holding a popsicle that looks like SpongeBob and goes up and licks it. It's that same kind of skin crawling grossness.
I'm trying to think of which episode that is. It's the one with the clam with Clamu, right?
Is it?
Yeah, it's the one.
I don't remember.
Yeah, or is it the one where I just.
It's the one where SpongeBob steals the pearl, I think.
Yes.
I don't remember this in the slightest.
And Patrick they're trying to track down who the criminal is that stole this pearl, and Patrick keeps saying, I don't remember what he says, but anyway,
he's so close I can almost taste it.
Oh,
and we
yes.
see him licking something that looks like SpongeBob, except it's actually a popsicle that looks suspiciously like SpongeBob.
That's so great. I love suddenly remembering SpongeBob things.
I think we've done this in a majority of episodes.
Oh yeah,
so far.
Oh definitely. We did it earlier in this episode with the plastic.
Oh, we did.
So, welcome to Return to the Splash, our SpongeBob podcast.
Oh man. Okay, that's a rule now. We can only make additional podcasts if they start with Return to the.
Oh
yep.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got so many sequel podcasts planned, you guys. I hope you guys are in it for the long haul.
Exactly. We're in this till we're dead and in the ground.
I'm gonna say this though. Maybe I'm just too innocent, but I didn't really see anything overtly sexual in the alien licking or the slimy goo.
I'm not saying that the alien licking is inherently sexual. I'm saying that it's gross.
Yeah, it is gross.
And I do think the goo splattering. Maybe the writers of the show intended it to be kind of like a little call out, like like a joke that the kids aren't really going to get. It's not really meant to be harmful. I think they maybe mean for it to be funny, if anything. Or maybe French people just different cultural norms, and they don't really see how that might be a problem. But I personally think it's gross. I'm not saying that everybody has to, but I do, and I really don't like it.
Totally think
you don't have to like it. I mean, I just hadn't thought of it that way. I just hadn't.
Understandable. I mean, it creates a difference in opinion, a discourse, if you will.
It's
kind of
okay
thing.
to not like things.
It's
okay.
Don't
be a dick about it.
It's okay to not
like things.
Don't
be a dick about the things you don't like.
Good job, everybody.
Woo! So anyway, Jeremy, having been suspicious about Ulrich's notification, or maybe Aelita notifies him about pulsations. Anyway, Jeremy knows that something's going on, so he runs a super scan. And as I often do, I want to note a little thing about the scene. When he runs the scan, I'm not sure if we very closely see the program that he runs on his computer up close too often. It's this window that opens up, and we see it going one by one through all the towers to scan to see if they're activated. And when it stops on the tower that it detects as being activated by Xana, we see a symbol of the international biohazard symbol. And the screen very clearly says infected.
I noticed that too. It's pretty cool.
That's never used in the verbiage of the show, but it is very interesting to see because it almost seems like it would be a very different connotation if they talked about infected towers all the time.
It would be. Maybe it's something similar in French. I don't know, but it's a really cool note, and I can't say that it really pops up in any other episode of the show, but I will keep on the lookout for it. So, like I said earlier, he rallies the troops. He and Odd peel off for the factory where Odd gets virtualized into Lyoko, and Yumi goes to try and find Ulrich.
She walks around through the sewers, which are enormous aqueducts. We've seen them before.
Yeah.
And this is where we find out that she carries a switchblade with her.
Yes, because she finds Ulrich and Sissy plastered to the wall, and she says, whatever you do, don't move a muscle.
Boy, aren't you funny.
Yeah, and she cuts them all down.
Yumi is very quietly, never really explicitly noted, but very plainly, a capital B. That wallet that Samuel L. Jackson carries in Pulp Fiction? Yumi carries that same wallet.
You guys, I've never seen Pulp Fiction.
I have, and I don't know what Ben's talking about.
So you're going to have to bleep this, but Samuel L. Jackson says in the movie, it's kind of a famous scene, that his wallet is the one that has badass mother on it.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to have to bleep that one. Okay.
So yeah.
No, that's
Basically
very
what
accurate.
I'm saying is, a cleaner and perhaps more recently cultural relevant reference is to say that Yumi might be able to wear the same belt buckle as McCree does in Overwatch.
Well, yes.
This took a very different direction than I thought it was going to. When you said Yumi and capital B, I thought you were going to say something less than flattering about her.
No, I was
I
gonna
had
capital
thought
B
too,
badass.
but I knew that Ben would not say anything like that about
Yeah,
our friend
I was
Yumi.
surprised.
Another thing, it was totally a nitpick, but at one point Sissy is like profusely thanking Yumi and saying something like, I never thought I'd say this, but thank you so much. And then Ulrich is like, yeah, you can kiss and make up later. Which, at first I was like, ooh. And then I realized that in France people air kiss each other all the time.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Never mind.
Yeah, which reminded me that the Beast, aka the air kiss, is conspicuously absent from the show. I'm sure they're aware that that is something that doesn't really translate outside of France.
I never thought of that, but you're right.
I mean, I was only in France like 10 years ago, but people did do it. Like, even people our age.
How often did they do it? Did you just see it around like it ain't no thing?
Well, I mean, it ain't no thing. My memory is very rusty, unfortunately. I can't really speak to it. If anyone has any more knowledge, feel free to let us know. But this moment is interrupted when James Finson finds them.
And he is, again, pissed.
He is, but he only has a few seconds to try and scold them before the alien shows up again.
The alien appears.
And we get the answer to the question, what would he do if he met his own living creation? The answer is, he would pull on its tail and say, I created you. You have to listen to me.
Oh, I completely forgot about that.
That's another reason I hate this episode. And, of course, by this point, I will admit that my perception is colored so much by my like for James Finson that I am probably pulling things out specifically to hate them. But really, who talks like that?
James Finson.
No one talks like that. I guess James Finson
Finson
talks like that.
Well, he gets splatted against the wall, and at least until the RTTP doesn't show up again. So,
Good
job.
He gets splatted.
And then the rest of the live action is Ulrich, Yumi, and Sissy cowering and running in fear from the alien who... Yeah.
They're gonna get choked, you guys.
In probably one of the most graphic scenes in the show, wraps its tentacles about Ulrich and Yumi's necks, lifts them up, and attempts to strangle them to death.
And you can see, like, Yumi, like, desperately trying to pull the tentacle away from her throat, and sweating, and her face getting red, and it's surprisingly shocking.
It is, and, like, Sissy is on the ground, tears streaming down her face. Meanwhile...
So if we go back to Lyoko, we are in the polar region. And the reason I say it is because Jeremy calls it the polar region in this episode. We fondly know it as the ice sector. But to be fair, they have never used the word sector yet. So for all we know, we've been calling it the wrong thing this whole time.
Oh, I don't think we have. I think they call it
No,
sector
they
with
change it. But...
Yeah, as they do. And this episode is it's the introduction of Ben's favorite monster, the Hornets.
Ugh.
So what?
I was just going to say, the Hornets are the most hellishly evil-looking forms of a vaguely vespid creature that you could possibly imagine.
This is true.
I applaud you for your use of the word vespid.
Thank you.
It's a good word.
I've never heard the word vespid, but I knew exactly what it meant.
You heard the word vespid this weekend because one of your friends used it to describe hornets, and that's how I remembered to use the word.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Anyway, so these hornets, they're the green things with bulbous heads, and they have like three pairs of
about them. No, go ahead.
wings. And like they've got this huge long stinger. And they fly in groups, and they're awful, and they're terrible, and they shoot like acid. Although I don't think we see that in this episode. And they're terrible and bad. Okay, go on, David.
Here's what's gross about them: they look like larvae.
They do.
They don't look
You're
like
right.
fully developed hornets. They look like larvae with wings.
Yes.
You know what they look like? They
What?
look like the termites from the movie Ants.
I can't say I've seen the movie Ants, but Ooh, they do look gross. According to the lore of the series, they always travel in groups of 3. They have a leader that has more life points than the others, and if the leader is destroyed, the other 2 members of the pack immediately die, and that may as well just not exist because I never see it happen.
It's one of those things like roachsters travel in packs of 5.
Jeremy mentions explicitly in this episode that their lasers are 20 life points per impact, which is the first time that we hear that verbalized, and one of the only times, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I wonder if at some point they just kind of wing it.
Get out.
No.
So anyway, another thing I want to mention about the Hornets is that they're vicious creatures.
Oh my god!
They're flying in this group tight, like a V shape, and they're shooting their lasers constantly. It is a rain of lasers going down, and we see them shooting the ice, and we see it's all going to the green lines because everything's getting blasted away. And we know that they're 20 life points for impact. These are all the gang can do on Lyoko is just run. And why doesn't Xana use these more often?
I don't know. I think just because the crew wants to switch it up. Although that does lead to the coolest part of this Lyoko sequence, which is the ice slide, which will show up again and be a great source of fun.
And it also introduces another Code Lyoko tradition, the Aelita crotch cam.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're right. So yes, Odd expertly slides down this really cool ice slide, which ends in a steep drop. And Aelita is not as graceful.
Which you'd think it would be the exact opposite, because Aelita lives there.
I know, right?
She doesn't seem to hang out on the ice sector, though. Like, you never see her just walking around there. The way
she hangs out in the desert most of the time.
And the
desert
forest.
Or the mountains later. Or the forest. So just not the ice sector.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's cold there if we assume that Aelita can feel cold.
But she cannot, because she cannot feel anything.
Exactly. And so they get to where the tower is, or rather, they have stumbled into Lord of the Rings, the 2 towers.
I got the sense here that they cut a lot of Lyoko scenes in order to make room for more stuff in the real world. Because the Lyoko battle sequence here is effectively just 3 blocks. 1, flying hornets. 2, ice slide. 3, they show up and there's suddenly 2 towers and nothing is mentioned about it until Aelita happens to say, Jeremy, I have to pick one of these towers. And I also don't know why Jeremy can't tell which tower is the real tower, since his screen shows what's going on Lyoko.
Right.
But anyway,
I got the impression that they were close enough that they showed up as one bleep.
Maybe. Observant, astute observation.
David, you always save me from my very disdainful comments. I'll say something like, "Why didn't they see this? Why did this happen the way it is?" And then you always sensibly say, "Well, what about this?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that works every time."
You're going to be the one that saves us, because after all, you're our Wonderwall.
Ah.
And I said maybe.
You're so sweet, Mary.
Now, for the love, can we go one episode?
This is another one where just randomly Odd falls on top of Aelita, and they have a conversation like that. Like, they just have a conversation while Odd is straddled on top of Aelita. Speaking of, why is he on top? He doesn't belong there.
This is the one and only time when a guy tops in the show. Whenever 2 opposite gender characters fall on top of one another, and it happens a lot, the girl is always on top, except for this one time.
Oh.
Yeah.
You keep track of this?
Well,
this is just
you
a vague
notice?
Recollection.
Like, remember when The Thing That Doesn't Exist came out, and Ulrich landed on top of Yumi, and the fandom kind of went like, sacrilege!
Oh, I don't recall that. And not just because that thing didn't happen. I genuinely don't recall this.
I'm sure Mary remembered this.
I only remembered it when you told me about it.
Huh.
But either way, yes, the drama of the 2 towers is kind of a non-starter. Aelita says at the last minute that if she chooses the wrong tower, it's all over. We never really find out why. And this particular tower takes a bit of a long time to deactivate, just to draw out that tension for an extra second. And
then it's gone.
Yeah, everything's okay. A return to the past is done. And
Theory time. What if
Free time.
she really did pick the wrong tower, but Franz Hopper, like, finagle things behind the scenes to make it work?
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
You guys
The
don't
reason
know
I
Franz
thought
Hopper's
that I thought she said that was maybe she knew that the gang was in mortal danger, or at least she was guessing that they were in mortal danger, or somebody was in mortal danger.
Yeah, that was
because
my
if she picked the wrong tower and she didn't stop them in time, then they would die, and there was nothing that they could do about it. That's the feeling that I got.
That's also the feeling that I got. At least only on rewatching. I had totally forgotten about that 30-second plot point.
Yeah, it really is a 30-second plot point.
Yep, in the next 30 seconds, we resolve the James Finson plot point. I think this time, does Ulrich still reject the signed photo, or does he take it?
I don't think it's specified. I don't think we see him accept or reject it.
Either way,
What he
Ulrich...
says, do you want to reveal it?
I guess I will. Ulrich finally understands how to get James Finson away from the factory forever. He says, so, there was already a movie shot there. And James Finson basically just up and leaves.
No, he says a science fiction film with an alien.
Oh! Important.
And James Finson angrily calls his producer. And that's the end of the episode.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
It was alright.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one like a 7.5.
What? 7.5? That's a low score to you?
Well, I found it enjoyable, even thought-provoking, but it just something about it just always will seem off to me.
That's funny. I'm pretty sure I liked it more than you did, and I was going to give it a lower score.
Really? What
Yeah,
were you going to give it?
I was going to give it like a 6.5, or between 6 and 6.5.
I guess maybe I'm more used to 5 not really being average, but more thinking of it on a scale of, like, school grades.
You think of it in, like, GameSpot terms, where an 8 is unspeakably low.
Yeah.
I want to give this episode a 0 because I hate it so much, but it's not bad enough to merit 0. Like I understand, like, it's not, the reasons for which it is terrible are not, like, so cinematographical that it would require a 0 rating. So I'm going to rate this episode null. Not 0, but null. It has no rating.
That's fair.
Because I hate it. I hate this episode.
That is very fair.
It's a
now
null
that we have
session.
gotten through it, it's a null session, you homestuck. And I am never going to watch this episode again.
That is fair. Probably me neither. I watched it twice in preparation for this episode, and now I never need to watch it again.
That's so weird. Like, I consider myself the least fanish of us three. At some point, I was all about Lyoko, but now I'm not as big a fan of it. It's just something I'm nostalgic for, but not something I really, like, love right now. But I don't hate this episode or even dislike it that much. I always thought it was okay.
Exactly. Different strokes, as we've mentioned.
Oh, wait, you know what we didn't mention?
What?
The lady from the first, quote-unquote, the first movie is in one of the tents in the factory.
Oh, yes, she is.
Oh, I missed that.
Yes, she is. She looks very disheveled and upset and angry to be there.
Yeah, she did. And she was in her underwear. Wasn't she?
She certainly
she
was. Boy, does this first season like the underwear. So, well, that is the episode. As you can see, it was a divisive one. And once again, thank you all so much for your patience with us as we muddle through being tiny baby podcasters. I hope I can do my best to sort of clean up the beginning there, and maybe in the future, as we sort of consider listener feedback, and as we develop things to talk about, we'll be a little better organized in the future. If you want to find us on social media, our main account is at RTTP Podcast. That's RTTP and then the word podcast. As David mentioned earlier, you can find him at DavidRTTP. You can also find us on Tumblr at the same, RTTP podcast. Or you can email us at, guess what, rttppodcast@gmail.com. It's a bit late here tonight, but tomorrow I will start answering emails, or Ben or David, if you'd like to answer some emails, go ahead. And our cover art, as ever, was done by the amazing Ingram, and you can find their work on Twitter at Ingram Comics. That's INGRAM Comics with an X, or at ingramcomics.com. And that was it for me, and other than that, we just need to say I'm Mary.
I'm David.
And I'm Ben.
Super.
Nuclear.
Blast!
Yes!
On me dit que je ne suis qu'un bon à rien, un vrai loser. Et d'un mot qui sonne, je ne suis plus dans le coup. Une flèche au cœur, je fais plus partie du show. Tirer le rideau, éteignez les lumières. Qu'est-ce que je peux faire, coincé sur ma chaise? Déchaînez-moi, on va s'envoler. Après penser